Hello. It's Paul here. And I am in the process of making a thing. So, this is a fuzzy little goober dinosaur guy. I'm making for a friend. It's using a needle binding technique, so it's kind of slow to make. So it's probably not going to be selling much of these, but it's just for a friend. So, if you can make needle binding crap and working around. It's not really crap, it's kind of stuff. Don't mind the mark there, that's just so the camera can see. If you can work in the round, like stitching stuff together, then you can kind of make stuff. Still don't have the world's best camera for making videos, but it's decent enough. So if the picture is kind of small or lower resolution, it's to get more time out of it. Because the bigger the picture, the less time this camera gives. It's still old. So there's the trade-off. But if you can work in around to make hats or socks or stuff like that, with needle binding, then obviously you can work in around to make stuff with this kind of pattern and fill it with stuffing. So you can make critters. It's not too hard. I am just using the regular old cheap stuff in it. You can find it at like Walmart, nothing fancy. I hope this is in focus good. But that's what you got. So I will be adding more to this group. I don't know if I'll be able to get it all in the same shot. How well you can hear me. But for this video I figured I could add another one of these little fins here. I still got like another foot I'm working on. I'm going to add little tiny dinosaur arms and maybe like part of a leg stick out. Right now, working on one bit at a time. So, get stuff. And this is kind of, if you don't know about needle binding, it's a cheap hobby to get into. I'm just using this cheap yarn you can get at like Walmart or Michael's or it's the other one, Hobby Lobby, but it's one of the cheaper acrylic brands of yarn right here. Nothing fancy. It's pretty much what he's made from. You got a good selection of colors, but it seems to wear decent enough. Some of the polyfill does get through, but I'm sure that can be pulled off or cleaned up later. Or if it has fuzzies, it's not the world's best. You know, people worry about microplastics, but oh well. It's one of the issues this world has right now. I don't know how to fix that. It is what it is. But could be worse, I guess. Some mini scissors I got sitting around. I'm getting stuff. It's not really patching up videos together. We don't have the world's best editing software still or anything. Show you the other foot I'm working on. So here's the other foot. It's at the point where I could stitch it on, but it's still just a lot of work to get it on there. It's a little more tricky. But as you can see, if you can work in around and around, you jam stuff in there, that's how you make stuffed animal. You just gotta try to think of like the little shapes that you can make in the round. I mean, these little spikies, and then stitch spiky things together. And then after I stitch spiky things together, I work in around all of them. It's pretty much how you get them together, and they're practically seamless. Ain't perfect, but they're good enough for this thing. It's not going to come apart easy unless the dog goes at it or something, but if the dog goes at it, it's not going to be much of a toy, or it's not meant for a dog anyways. So It is what it is. They're sturdy though. They're sturdy. You can squeeze and pull on it. It's not gonna come apart anything easy yet. It will hold together, but the dog will still shred it. Nalbinding needles. This is a wood one I made myself. It's just like if you can carve or use sandpaper and drill the small holes somehow, you can make your own needles, but it's not quite suitable for this yarn. It's too the gauge of the needle will make it too loose in most cases for a big needle like this, but for bigger yarn, yeah, it works good. So, make your own. Or you can buy needles in like little packs of 6. These are only like $2 or $3 to get a pack of 6 of these little plastic darning needles. Or the metal ones. In some ways I like the metal ones for like jamming into stuff and twisting it, but there's like nickel or something in it, and my skin will get eczema. It'll like get cracked and start peeling, so I don't use these for long. That's why I switched to using plastic. But if I gotta get stuff for draining directly into here and I gotta bend hard, the plastic may break, and that's when I bring in the metal one. But it'll mess up my hands and the skin will start breaking up, getting real itchy, and that's why like most of the work I'll use a plastic one. So start on again. The green tape is just so the camera can see where I am putting stuff. I know where to go, and I'll draw about 4 arm lengths of orange. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think the camera is still going, yeah? Watching what I'm doing. Nothing fancy. Hope the light is good enough to see. And I'm going to pause the camera, but I am going to make a chain, and let's go and make a loop for the next spike. So I guess I could show the start of the chain, but once I'm doing that, I'll pause the camera and I'll finish making the loop and show you how to stitch it in. Maybe the camera's off the wrong spot. Show you how to stitch it in here. Make a loop with the chain. How much time have I got on the image? As 17 minutes. Okay. Still had time for a little bit. Nothing fancy. Just to make a bit of an overhanging knot. Two loops. A little bit of an overhanging knot, like so. I gotta find the yarn. I'm off camera for it. Find the yarn. I'm just threading the needle with my hands here. It's big enough I can see it. And I gotta even up the rest of the yarn, but I'll leave myself about length like that. Find the other in the yarn, and I'll just pull it even. So I'm just evening it up. I'll do this every so often when the length gets shorter, but now I got it even on the needle. So it came undone, but oh, the biggie. 1, 2 loops, or in this case. And I'll get it on the needle like so. Start out with. I got a little bit of a tail, but the tail should get stitched in at some point. And I am going to go. I don't quite do the thumb method, so if you bear with me, it's not like the traditional nalbinding in some ways, but it is one of those stitches, just I'm doing it backwards or something from how I usually do it. But I use my index finger on one hand instead of a thumb. That's funny. But whatever. Still, I'm using a needle and it's going in loops, and it's pretty much nalbinding. It's different approach. Anyhow, a little bit too tight. A little bit too tight on the start. So I'm dealing with the setup I'm not used to. I'm just used to watching YouTube videos while I do this stuff. Pass my time a bit. So, make a loopy loop. Doing one loop, and I look for one of the following loops. That's why I did a double on here. And if I can pull it snug. You don't want it super tight, you just want it snug on the needle. This first one, like that. So it's not tight, but it's snug. This might be a little too tight, but oh well. So you're just getting it tight on the needle. Like that. I hope this camera's in focus. I'll upload either way. To you to figure if this video is good enough. You know, normally I do like electronic music stuff or something because it's easy enough to make, but something to listen to at least, right? But I'm doing this other project which is kind of different. And again, you're finding that one loop. It's hard to see probably, but just like 2 loops here, and I'm just going for that first loop there. And through the loop I just made one. So now I get to snug up this one. And see the one I just snugged up? That's going to be the one I go through next time with the other big loop. So, and I'm going to make a chain. So once you see that, I'm making a chain. Repeating the same thing over and over again. Yeah. Probably cut the camera out and do a chain for a bit. Until I can make a loop long enough to start one of the spikies on this dude. The circumference at the base, that's what I'm going to go for, and it's going to be the circumference of the base on the little goober's head, right? Little bugger here. So, just do that. So let's see that. Starting to repeat now. Don't have to be super tight, just snug. And the needles tends to set the gauge, that's why I use a smaller needle with this here. It's a smaller yarn. Like I said, I have a different needle, but it's too big for this yarn. So darning needle works well enough, this cheap acrylic. And you set the tension against the needle, and you just get it snug. Not tight, not loose, just snug. I can pull this a little loose again, but just snug it like that. Because you're having a needle in there when you do that, it sets the gauge, so it keeps everything consistent once you do it right. Yeah, that tail will probably be stitched in with the next row, but this row I may leave it out. And on this, because I'm doing a stuffed animal, I can hide the tail on the inside, so I may cheat that way. So it'll go on the side with the stuff in it, and there won't be anything to pull in on the outside. It's going to be packed in. You can do it. So, that. Doesn't look like much of a chain yet. It'll get there. How many minutes are remaining? I probably got like 10, right? One more loop after this one, and I'll cut it. And snug it up. I get to the point where I'll join it. So make a chain, and I'll make a loop, and I'll join the loop. And then I'll go to stitching it on the critter, and I might do another video for the next step after this one. Depends on how good this camera is doing it. So, what I did, that. It's just a repetitive task. It's not hard. It's just, yeah, I feel for it. sticks, you might have to re-stick it so it sometimes it doesn't catch on a fiber or something, you know. It should pull there. And nothing fancy yet. It's real simple, stupid. Same thing again and again. Alright. So you can see it's starting to make a chain. There. That'll be good enough for now. I'm going to pause the video. Splice the videos together. When I get a loop, I'm going to come back. It should be pretty quick down there. Alright. Back at it again. So, hopefully these video clips will edit together well enough. I got the goober ready. Figure it's probably not much of a change in time, but I got the loop here, a chain stitch long enough to go around to make the base for the next little spiky thing on this guy. So this will be well long enough to help you. So now we gotta go about turning it into a loop, right? So I have the little loopy here, and I basically got to get all these twists out of it. So this kind of stitch likes to twist over on itself. So I gotta keep twisting until it's flat. Kind of hold it kind of tight so it doesn't untwist. Just keep working all the twists out. So I got this right here like so. Loop at the end, kind of straight. Might not be perfect, but I think it'll be good enough. I think that's good enough. And come back through the loop. And snug that up. And stitch the chain together. And start on the next row. And I'll do a bit of starts on the next row until I have completed a second set of stitches, making this a complete loop rather than a chain though. It still wants to fold over on itself. You gotta be careful not to stitch in the twist when you're making a loop like this. It's an easy thing to do. So, it'll be like a part of a loop that hangs down on the next row, so you go through that first. I'm just gonna go through the loop. So, stitch it in. I don't think it's exactly perfect, but it's in there. I'm stitching over that tail somehow or other, so I have two if I can like that. That's one loop to partially anchor it, but you gotta do like 2 or 3 before you pass the point of it twisting. So even though when you come back to the joint, you might still have to work out the twists. But once you get like a full second row start finished and you're on to your third, then usually the twists are out of it. So I'm gonna do that for a bit. I'll probably cut out the video again for the next part. So now we're turning the chain into a loop. And we'll just do 2 or 3 rows on the loop before we fasten it onto this guy by stitching into him and stitching it in. gives us a point to work on to build the next part attached to that little dude. Little lizard booger guy. Yeah, it's just a little hobby crafting project kind of thing. Plushies are relatively easy to make this way, but because I'm using a needle binding technique, it's not like a large production. I just can't make dozens of them. It takes a long time, that's why. But if you're crafting enough for a friend or something, or occasional thing just to keep yourself busy, you can sell them, or who knows. It's just you're not going to have a high output with this method. They'll be sturdy, be well made, but it just takes a long time. Part of it is just because needle binding, you gotta pull the whole thread through. But in a way, it's kind of easier to learn needle binding than stitching. It has the caveats of you gotta deal with pulling the thread through, and then there's the joins at some point. I have a method of stitching the tails in, but you gotta leave a bit of a tail. You gotta stitch them in. And that's the same for joins too. There's other ways to do it, but since I'm using synthetics, they don't mat together. So stitching them in I found is better than knotting, only because knots leave a hard part into the most of the stitchings. You can avoid having a little hard knot in there. There's other ways to do it too. Just keep going. This probably isn't too different in my other videos on this subject, although they're not often. Just stitch it. And when I make these things, they're just pretty much drop stitches once you anchor it up. Put stuff in them when you get there. So you see I'm starting on what's a loop instead of just a chain. I didn't make another row to make a loop now. And when I get there, I will probably come back again, but you can kind of see it's just nothing too hard to do. It just takes time. Usually you can get this done maybe 2 weeks, a month or so. You just take your time at it. You'll have a stuffed critter you can give to a friend or around the place. Something unique. I don't have any plans or designs. I just kind of picture the shape, just like when you're 3D modeling or drawing something. You say, hey, this is like what the volume will be, and then you kind of try to anticipate the volume. If you've made hats or socks, you kind of know how the dropping stitches works and stuff. And then the joins are a little trickier, but if your pieces are not closed to start with, generally you can stitch in other things. It's a little easier because you have open spots to reach. I'm not sure how to explain it better. Yeah, you'll have something. I'll be back again later and finish this loop, and then once I get the loop to the right point, I'm going to join it to this guy. And I might make another video later on, but you get the idea. Alright, next video cut. Next video cut. Nothing fancy. Okay, back on again. But for you, it's probably no time involved. Depending on the video, it's good. Yeah, I probably don't have the best video equipment. So I got the loop turned into a ring with 2 rows and a little bit more on it. This part is a little rough, so I'm going to put that on the back. Have the front more clean. But before I attach here, because I want to do the attachment towards the front where it's clean, I'm going to have to bring this string up and through to the front. So I'm just going to run it through the fabric. So what I'll do here is through. I'm going to pick that up later sometime. Stitch that in a little better, so that's not too big a deal. Just gotta run it down to the next row. Hide any stitches. I could probably just come through on the inside too, but it's not anchored to anything yet. So just running it through the inside of it is good. It's not exactly perfect. I'm just going to use the extra of the string to anchor it on here. And it's probably to here. Drop it down around. Like so. Too chatty. Alright. So now I got the string coming out the very front. And close to it. Took the needle off because I'm going to switch to the metal needle to anchor it. And the main reason why I don't stick with this the whole time is my skin will get all chewed up from a nickel allergy or something. I just know I get like, it starts turning cracky and peeling and itchy and I touch a certain metal long enough, it'll cause my skin to crack to like where it went where it can bleed and stuff. So that's not good. So that's the reason why I don't stick them off. Maybe if these were aluminum I wouldn't have that issue, but I think it's stainless and there's just enough nickel that it irritates me somehow. Must be allergic to it, huh? Anyway. So, where do I want to begin? Stitching this in, huh? Put this on here about right. Let me go off camera a bit so I can get a little better look. Sorry. And the camera can't be in the same spot. It's best lighting in this tiny little apartment. So I have to deal with it. It's good enough for me, but for the camera it might be iffy. So I stitch in from the outside and then I come through on the inside. That's how I do it. So I'm going to stitch in from the outside and come through on the inside. Just might do that part off camera, just to get it anchored at first. So look through mounted. So that's the first anchor point. And I'll get 2 or 3 more in. And it doesn't have to be perfect for the inside, but it's nice to have it clean from the outside. So once you get a bunch of anchors down, it's on there. So cut it off or really go out of your way to destroy the thing. So. This side doesn't have to be perfectly even either. It can be a few stitches into the outer fabric before going on back to the outside. The outside, you just want it even with the bottom edge, and they kind of disappear into the fabric you're anchoring to. So. But because I have to bend, sometimes that's why I'm using the metal needle. Again, I can break the plastic ones if I'm not careful. It's possible. Break the plastic one, but I don't want to. You have to. More likely to break the thread first, or the yarn, or whatever. So yeah. And then go on the outside. At the very bottom edge. So that's where it is, the very bottom edge. And this side can be in a bit. Flush. It's anchored. 3 stitches. Back through from that side out. It looks very clean because all the stitching is tight. And again, when you're going into the anchor material from the outside, you're keeping it even with the bottom edge. So they all stay in a row with the bottom, and they're practically almost hidden. You can see perfectly hidden, and you can still see stitching, but go in and you don't, or even enough that it just seems continuous. But yeah, anchor stitches. So maybe 2 stitches, maybe 3 at the most. Can help it. Come back on the outside, you look for the next stitch over in the loop, so you can go through that little hole at the bottom of the loop. Might be too high up though. It can be an issue too, depending on how good. I'm good. It's right there at the very edge of where it is. I want this thing to go down the back of it like so. So I kind of have to shape it as I go along. Make the next spike. And it's just going to have 3 spikes, so once I get this one, it's done for that part. So weird. Again, don't ask for plans or patterns because there isn't one. It's just, you know how to make these little circles and tubes. You can just kind of build up your form, add or subtract stitches to find the shape, and you kind of add parts on just like I'm adding these spikes. You stitch them on basically. You put stuff in when you get to a certain point. I don't know if I'll do that in this video, but yeah, maybe I'll finish the anchoring process. Should hit stuffing and the yarn I used. So it's nothing fancy. Just gotta keep at it. Make up your own design, basically. That's how I do it. So, stitches in. If you need to, you can push or bend the thing to get better position. It's floppy, you have to do that. So look how it stitches it. It's in there, but you don't see it from the outside. It's kind of nice when it works out like that. Inside you'll see it a bit messy, outside it'll be clean. The inside is going to be filled with stuff in it, it'll never be seen once this thing's good, right? That's the point. Sometimes if you get more than one stitch on the anchor in the same spot, it's okay as long as you don't overdo it, just one or two. Try to move on to the next opening in the stitch to anchor. So, but I use the camera too much there, that's why I have the green sticky so I know where to position for the camera. Try to. Maybe a little as my hooper. See how I can actually pull on this a little bit more because it's anchored on there. It's good now that I got like 5 or 6 stitches. Okay, holding up. I did put some weighting inside it. Like I made like a little tube thing out of yarn and then stuffed it out. What I did was use pennies. Use anything that's like that will add weight but won't rust or corrode. So I use like your stainless steel brass bolts or coins generally don't rust. So, but you gotta go. Pennies are the cheapest figures and coins, obviously. There's like a little tiny thing out of the pennies that's sewn shut. Then that's padded out with cotton. And that's put inside, and then the cotton stuffed around it. So it's not going to bounce to the sides because it's anchored in here. There's like another thing of stitching anchoring it on the inside. Then it's padded out with cotton. So you'll never get to the hard part where the coins are. It's just there so the bottom stays at the bottom. But it gives a little bit of heft, which is kind of nice sometimes. So yeah, he's weighted. You can't tell from just where I'm telling you. You kind of have to make one. But what I did is I made like a tiny little thing of coins, stitched them together, and padded that out and stitched it so you wouldn't get to the hard part of the coins, and then anchored it inside the middle with more stuff. It's weird, but it does what it's intended to do, and that's keep the bottom at the bottom. There's enough room, you're not going to hit. I don't know how you'd hit the coins without actually tearing it apart. It's like really stuffed in there too, is that just a little bit of stuff in there is like a lot. He's padded out. But it's nice just to have heft. It's not going to like go anywhere or flop over easily. It might not always be necessary depending on the nature of the toy. Like if you're making a pet toy, you don't need the weight in there. If you want something to sit on your shelf, maybe for your kid to, hey, this isn't like just throw them, but you could, but you know, I don't know, it makes it feel more substantial. For a shelf decoration, yeah, weighting can help. Because then you won't flop over or fall down easily or whatever. Yeah, it depends on what you want to do. It's this individual as you go type of project. course, like if you add weights to it, just remember, like if you go through metal scanners or something, you might end up destroying or confiscating everything. That's the downside, I guess. You don't know what that is. It's not there to hurt or do anything. It's just there to provide weight. They don't know that they probably won't trust you. It's another thing to keep in mind if you gift it. You might want to say, hey, I added weight to this. It might show up in like a metal detector. You know, it's just like pennies or washers or what's another one, like the nuts or bolts. Brass or stainless. You know, you don't want it. If you get something that rusts in here, it could be bad over time. You don't want anything that will rust. Just trying to shape this down. Stitch. Spiky going on his head. And I will be dropping stitches on this to get these spike shape. Probably have to drop a lot of stitches. Looks like it is kind of long. Let's see, I don't want it like too high. I just kind of want it. See, I'm going to drop like probably 3 or 4 stitches on each side to keep it the height I want. As I go around the next rows up. While I get to that, I think I'll just get to anchoring half of it in the video and then cut out, show when it's anchored and how I do a barrel stitch somewhere. That's usually how I finish the anchoring. I'll put a barrel stitch somewhere in here to keep the end from ever coming out. Those tend to work pretty good. Just like that. Out from the inside, and down and anchored, out from the outside. As long as you keep it even with the bottom, the stitches don't really show unless you practically tear it out. These little spikies in a row, so I might have to. Whatever. You get the idea. I'll come back when I anchored on. Yeah, it's on there. It's on there good. But there is no. I'll be back. For you, no wait. For me, it'll be a few minutes, right? Okay. Okay, back again. I'm going to cut into recording. Cut out and recording. So, this little goober here, it's got the base of the top spike attached now, so I'm just going to do somewhere on the inside a barrel stitch. And I don't know how you can see this. Generally, I do 3 or 4 loop arounds before bringing it tight, so find a spot where you can stitch into. And doing it on the inside, so it's going to be kind of hidden. And you don't want to close up this loop, you want to leave this loop open. So that's the first loop. Go into the center, general anchor point area. It doesn't always have to be the exact same, but pretty close together. Second loop, and same again, and it's called a barrel stitch because when it wraps around the outer part of the string, it's barrel shaped kind of sort of. So I got all 3 loops done. You go back through all 3 loops. And what I do is cinch up first loop, second loop, cinch it up not super tight, and the third loop. Third loop I can tighten up a good bit and pull that through. Now generally anything pulled on a spiral stitch won't come out. That's why it's used in using sewing and stuff. Now anchor your stitch. So now this part, the base of the next spike, it's going to be like a crest kind of, is pretty much anchored on there. I'll probably cut in again when I shrink this down and close it up to put stuffing in there. It's not at that point yet, obviously. But you just drop stitches. So I'll probably do 3 or 4 on each side to bring it to a point. And when it's time for me to put stuffing in there, I'll probably come back on the camera again. So just a bit at a time. This probably takes longer than it takes in your video you're watching. But I just cut together and show you the highlights of how the process goes, and then I watch videos while stitching in my own stuff, and so you can get an idea. Just minutes at a time between each part here, and it's anchored on there. And like I said, you come out from the outside and go to the very base. You can come through on the inside. The inside, as you see, is rough, but they'll be hidden when the stuffing goes in and it's all closed up. The outside looks pretty tight. It's not always perfect. It's pretty tight. That's kind of get the little dinosaur goober. Yeah, it's not going to be a mohawk. It's going to be like another spikes. Get there when I get there. I have another foot and another arm, but you probably won't see that part. Yeah. Project in the making. Easy. This is needle binding. It's not crochet or knitting. Well, I'm sure you could do it that way too. All I need is like these or one of the plastic needles. They're cheap and does the job. Alright. Next part, you'll probably see it close up a bit. Put stuff in it. I'm not exactly looking at the camera, so I can't tell you how close it is. If I'm off screen a bit, sorry about that. So where is it? That's it. Okay, back on again. Alright. So the little lizard goober guy, dinosaur, whatever he is. Got the top crest almost done, but there's just enough room to get a finger in there to put stuffing in, so that's what I'm doing now. It's like before in the previous cut of the video, I said I'd close it up, and I did that by dropping stitches. So now at this point, it's where you put stuffing in. I'll close it up, and I might do some shaping stitches. Just be like hidden stitches on the side just to keep it a certain shape. Like 2 or 3 on this kind of thing if I need them. But other than that, it's almost done for the top crest, and then that'll probably round up the video. So I just might show that you put stuffing in and then just continue working and dropping stitches till you close it up. And you, like I did on when I first attached it, you run a stitch at some point, and then you try to hide a barrel stitch and then tuck away the rest of the string. Sometimes run it through 2 or 3 random spots and then pull it just so it's like sticking out of the surface and cut it off and let it go back inside. That usually ends the stitch in a way that, well, if you pull it out, it's nalbinding anyways the way I did this, because I'm actually going through all the material, so even if you pull on a loose end, it's not going to unravel the whole thing. Still, it's just to dress it cleanly. But that's how it's going to go. So I add some stuff. It might seem like a lot. It's not. It does pack down. It's polyfill. And I guess you could add too much and make it like real stiff, but yeah, it's a little trickier because I got a small hole to work with. But when you're working on the body, you just tend to leave the top open and stuff it as you go along. But pretty smaller appendage type things or parts of a stuffed animal, you just gotta leave a small thing. and just stuffing stuff. That's why it's called stuffing, right? It's like you're stuffing a turkey, but instead with the breadcrumbs, you're just using the polyfill. Alright. And stuffing will remind you how durable this fabric is if you picked a good enough yarn. So. That might be enough. It's quite a bit. It's firm. But even though it's firm over time, like if it's toys played with, it'll mat down or something. So just a little bit more. Yeah, so I'll probably just stitch to close it up and do a shaping stitch. I'll just do one little recap at that point, but that's pretty much like how when you do these things, you got stuff. And if you're working at it, you might have to push the stuffing back in every now and then as you're closing up the hole. Nothing too fancy. But it's just continuing with the stitching around and dropping stitches just like you would to make the close up a finger on a glove or the top of a hat or the end of a sock or something if you're working from the larger end. If you're used to working from the smaller end, you're probably not so inclined on dropping stitches, but it's the same way as adding stitches. You can drop stitches and make smaller, add stitches and make bigger. Simple as that. Nothing fancy. Yeah, it's almost done. So, probably be back on the finish up and just to show you. But yeah, that's enough stuffing. A lot. There's no set amount or anything. Just enough to get it in. Like I said, I don't have any plans for this. I just go along and make it. Alright. Simple, right? Yeah. See, am I on? Yeah, I'm on. Okay. Yeah, I got the goofy goober done. Getting this cool little dinosaur now off. Anyhow, you can see the top spike is completed now. Pretty much did everything, closed it up, did the stitches and anchored it. It's a little rough spot there, but it's nothing major. There are ways to hide it still, but I was just kind of wanting to get it done. It won't be terrible in there. So yeah, the shaping the stitches pretty much keep the flat areas flat, so you anchor them where you don't show up on the outside, but they do go through the inside of the fabric layer. And then you just kind of do enough to keep a flat area flat, so it doesn't go out of shape. That's pretty much it. Everything else still has ways to go, but the spiky parts are done, so got to see part of how this thing is made. But the same idea was used to make the rest of it, to be honest. So if you know how to make shapes in the yarn, any kind of a fabric creating process, you can kind of do this. It's not that hard. I just did it with the needle binding or nail binding techniques. So yeah, there you go. So anybody can make a stuffed critter. You just got to picture it in their head enough. You don't need an actual plan or anything. So that's it. Here you go. Later for now.